Welcome to Igbo Table Talk with Ali and
Emeka.
For today's topic,
Okay.
we are going to talk about emotional trauma.
Who's emotional trauma?
So pretty much how our parents dealt with emotional trauma and how we are changing that.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to talk about today.
That's a topic. That's a big one.
When my dad talks about his dad, the way, his dad treated them, the way they were raised, it was almost as though, you think the dad didn't love them. And that's the mindset all of them, used, on their kids. And a lot of times it's almost as though how our parents were raised was more of, their parents provided food and shelter for them.
Only salsa.
And that's the reason. There's no closeness. Because my dad talks about it all the time. He would be like, I would never talk to my dad like this. I won't say any of this, to my dad. As though the dad is like this tyrant, and they just have to make sure, they're working on eggshell.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
They can't, and it's so different from and a lot of times they take that, they take all that trauma,
right.
and then they try to pass it down to us, where our parents they don't really hug us. Well, hopefully some are getting hugged. I know the other day my dad hugged me. I was like, oh, oh, this is different. But stuff like that. I don't remember really being hugged like that when I was young. I don't remember my parents telling me they love me. And that's what they were used to. They didn't really, that emotional connection is so different from how our generation is raising their own kids.
Someone asked you, right? Someone, not cut you, but someone asked you, hey, so how did your parents show you love then?
Providing shelter and food is showing love. Our generation, we're more we're relating to our kids. We're letting our kids ask us questions, but our parents, asking questions was almost defying them.
Oh, wow.
And that's what they were used to. You know what I mean?
Are you talking about me?
And I was a very inquisitive person. My dad did not. My dad was so annoyed by that. Every time he'll ask me to do something, I'm like, why? You cannot just tell me to do something. You need to give me a reason why I should do this.
Look at this one.
And no, seriously, I always and it wasn't even me
why
trying
are you
to
asking why?
It wasn't me being stubborn, but I've never been the type of person that just follow. You gotta let me know,
common sense.
Yeah, let me know, why should I do this?
Right.
And if you can't give me a legit reason,
Wow. So how did you all cope with that? So was that trauma for you, by the way? Was that trauma?
No, I'm saying that's one of those things that will pass down. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I wouldn't say it's trauma, but it does impact even how it impacts you in your adult life, how you even show love in relationships and things like that. You're more rigid because that's how you grew up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Because you reciprocate what you get.
I would say honestly.
And a lot of our parents kind of are like that. I feel it's us now, because I see a lot of people. I'll see people that will even say they're forcing their parents now to say I love you to them. They'll say I love you.
They're teaching them how to do that.
Yeah, they're teaching them how to do it. And it's and I see that as our generation
breaking the cycle.
Yeah, breaking that cycle and actually showing real affection.
Major.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might get your makamese mchetere oge m toro papa na mama ihe a na-emekarị bụ ime ka anyị tụọ ụjọ ihe ndị mmadụ na-eche gbasa anyị. So mgbe ụfọdụ anyị na-aga ụlọ nsọ o maọbụ anyị na-aga ahịa o ebe ọbụla anyị na-aga, papa m ga-foto like this echefukwasịrị mmadụ na gị echefukwasịrị mmadụ unu rashi ga aga personally or yo what how why. And so the thing is I'm being honest, okay, wow, it created a level of insecurity to where you're so subconscious or very conscious otu in the matter na legi yami na ga ulaka or yami na ga ulako or yami na ga just even njike gi hinle na for show. And
I see you do that because I call you out sometimes.
Sometimes it's still there. It's still there. Yeah, for
seriously,
sure.
Nobody's watching you. Relax.
Right. But at the same time, you can't blame the habit. It's just about breaking it. It's about breaking the cycle. But it's such a relevant factor where you begin to see, okay, wow, this is I'm going to India from this time.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing because I know a lot of times like they make you feel as though like everybody's watching. You have to behave. You have to behave. And I feel like it caused a lot of trauma too, which is one of the that's a good example because I see like in a lot of us. I feel like now a lot of us are grown, but like, growing up, like between maybe like teenage years, young adult years, it caused a lot of people to have two personalities.
Wow, that's so true. Like another movie.
Like where, like in the community, they have the personality their parents told them to have. But then when they're in college and they're with their people, it's like a whole two different people.
Is this chick on it?
I was gonna say like you have a Dhamma and then you have Janet.
Yo, we should close this thing right now. This is right. That's it. If you don't understand, forget about
it. That's real, and it's it causes that.
It causes that.
We're like but I think a lot of us now we're getting to a point where we're learning to just be us. We're not trying to let the community define who we are.
It's like because right at a certain point, Madugama lo nyembo lay him check dimma. Okay, not so nimendum.
That this is how you proceed as a Nigerian or as a Igbo person.
Yeah, because my mother when it came in sopro, yago iberibe. You can be so obedient or so I guess let me use the word humble. To a point,
humble, but
it's not humble, right? So that's the word, not humble yet.
Maybe like trained behavior.
Trained behavior. There you go. Good. To a point where it becomes ignorant. To where you're even becoming nearly disrespected because hakujegi to and that's just one major example, but there's others, even
Another one would be even like in marriage.
I was gonna say
our parents they were taught like in the marriage itself, like a lot of our parents we have a lot of parents who stayed in loveless marriages. Where like there's a lot of issues, but what was passed down to them is like Dia.
Nigerians will call it management,
patience. That's that. But it's like, and that's not. And I feel like we never. And the thing is, like, it's like they'll take it in and bottle it in, and we never learn like counseling or therapy.
I was gonna say that.
That all that stuff is important.
Yeah, it's important.
I'm not saying for people to go divorce.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not saying. I'm not encouraging anyone to divorce, but it's a thing where like. Like our parents, they were trained literally to stay in loveless marriage, and a lot of them literally, it was passed down, and this is what they saw marriage was. Because even the advice they'll give sometimes is the same thing, like patience, patience. But it's like
patience is key, but you use patience in a way where.
I think
everyone is able
not patient, endurance.
Endurance.
Endurance. Because that's what they'll pass down to them in marriage, like endurance.
Yeah.
People like but so many people were like like their husbands are cheating on them. They're in like bad marriages. They're beat on and things like that. But the thing is like they feel stuck because that's what they've been trained that you're supposed to endure. This is what marriage is. Endure.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Don't say anything.
Yes.
That's that. And you don't say anything, and you're just stuck you're suffering and you're stuck.
The counseling is so important because if people understand the importance of counseling, ima kamado also bata nime ebe nsobuno neutrally, right, unbiasedly be a genuine counselor for that couple or for that situation. A lot of families would have been able to patch up. Parents have been able to relate with their kids more, and then even the husband and wife would have been able to do more together. And have a relationship if they had understood the importance of counseling. I get that. Yeah. But
I feel like even if you don't have a professional counselor, I think also like if you're the trusted person that someone can talk to, I think that's okay also. I don't think anyone should like suffer in a marriage. You know what I mean? I think I believe it's better to separate than suffer in a marriage. That's just that. And I don't know. Now I feel like that's something that we never told, okay, like things like this shouldn't be what a marriage looks like, but since that's what their marriage looked like,
it should be expected.
They felt that that's what you have to deal with.
And then now, you growing up, you begin to realize that there are certain things that hakujigi or that you've adopted that in actuality don't fit, because you know there's an African norm, there's an Igbo norm on that management. I think almost every culture in Africa shares it though. And I believe that culture is, like you just said, endurance, right? But then where does the wisdom come to readjust so that the next generation...
Yeah, so how are we changing that, right?
Yeah, and we're changing by what you said earlier. Just having an understanding that things need to be done the right way for peace of mind, for longevity, for health in that marriage. And more importantly, just for the fact that like kids don't think that, okay, an abusive situation is normal. Yeah. Or a verbally abusive situation is normal.
Yeah, that is okay, because then when they go into their own marriage, they're thinking, well, and that's how it's passed on. We pass on trauma, like, okay, my parents, you know, they dealt with this and they stuck in their marriage. This is normal. This is how it's supposed to be. And that's not how it's supposed to be.
Because a lot of us had fathers that were very, fatherly, African. So he had like love, as you mentioned before, and even the way our fathers would speak to us. Yeah. Are you ready? Have you finished?
It's almost like a wording type thing. Like it's not like
and
actual.
The discipline is good. The assertiveness is good. Having that fatherly presence of an African man, Dimpa, is very, very important. But in a sense, the translation.
Like too much of it.
It was exactly nurture. You didn't get the nurturing part. You got more of the masculine, like all the way dominance.
You can't have a real conversation because then what ends up sucking is that when you become an adult, they're wondering, okay, why aren't you calling me? Why aren't you doing this? But it's like you never built a relationship with me.
So like
so I'm in my own house now, and like now you want to have a relationship, but it's it's too late,
It's too late.
It's too late. No, I'm just saying that's kind of how it is.
The train took off a long time.
It's too late because it's because at this point you're an adult like them. They can't discipline you anymore, but now they want to have a relationship, but it's like. And you never formed that with me when I was young, so how did you expect me?
Right. Yeah. And that's how we're changing it. A lot ultimately I ain't talking one kind. I so ha ebe ha ga-akwuru anya okwu. Anya kwuru ha okwu. Ọ ga-abụ ihe ịhụnanya. Ọ bụ ihe just ụjọ ha hụ nne na ha gba ọsọ. Ele ihe mere n'ime ndụ gị taa. Ele ebe nọzi. So by the time they're grown, they will want to relate with you. They will want to run. So that's how we're changing it now.
Yeah, because you set that example.
Our generation's definitely changing, and I think that's one of the best things that
I've noticed that with a lot of our generation that have kids, like how they relate with their kids is definitely different.
It's like one-on-one.
They have their kids. They let their kids ask questions because even before, I didn't make fun of Nocha. Oh yeah, Hana joke at you. Yeah, Hana just at you and when anything. But it's like no, that's actually a good thing. Like you want your kids to be inquisitive. You want your kids to ask the why question.
Curious.
It's so important. You want curious, right? Yeah, because they grow up being adults that can think for themselves.
Of course,
they grow up being and that way too. Like they can be a little bit more real with you.
They just won't follow the herd.
Yeah, or become two personalities where we get the trip. Yeah.
And then, what's the name you mentioned?
I think that's Madonna and Janet.
Don't be Adana and Janet.
Like be one person. Adana Janet. I don't know. Like be two of them combined. But that's true because I think I do see that where like our generation they're really letting their kids ask them questions,
for sure.
They're letting their kids like they're not like tyrants in their home where it's like okay because I said so eat your food because I said so, but it's like okay like this how they also have their humans. I feel like the way they were raised, they brought it on to where it's like with the kids, like there's no, it's like how dare you ask questions? Major. Just eat the food. Do what I say. There's no other option. Well, but definitely this, being disciplined is needed.
It's needed, no,
but it's a thing where it's like even with that, also provided nurture, you know, aside
yes.
from just like, oh, I give you food and I give you a place to stay. Like, that's,
Yeah, it needs a balance.
it's not enough,
So,
you know.
I think,
And that way, like, you're able to raise emotionally stable, mature rounded people.
and confident people too.
Yeah.
So you still want people to be confident. You talk about
Good.
yeah,
because there's a lot of our people we knew that had like multiple personalities, and that's because of how they were raised.
Yes.
Yeah. One person here, one person there. And they could never fully like just
fit who they
be
were.
who they are because that wasn't encouraged.
Yeah. And you know, now that that change is here, I'm glad that such conversations are happening because I'm sure a lot of folks can relate. It's happening. A lot of African young youth have gone through these things in diaspora, and they're going through them, and we're now figuring out ourselves to understand how to correct.
Yeah,
those emotional.
And I think also like you just in the chat too, just Americans in general, like from our friends, going to our friends' houses. I feel like you learn like, okay, wow, so there's another way.
Oh my gosh.
Because a lot of times like you have to see it. And of course TV too. Like TV, it's like, oh wow, my family's not like that. But the thing is like for our parents, how other examples. So this is it. This is how I was raised. This is how my home was. Because if my dad would bring it up like it's to this day, he'll say, I never talked to my dad this way. I didn't do this. I'm like, dang, this man was really scared of his dad. I think my dad low-key was terrified of his father. Like, very terrified. Yeah. But they didn't see anything else. Yeah. But for us, like, we're seeing examples from, like, our friends. We're seeing examples from TV and all of that. And, it helps a lot. I think that's also helping us, realize that, okay, it's not just
flip the script.
Yeah, it's not just one way. Even in marriages, like just what our parents' marriage looked like, because that's all they saw. Right. And then it's like with us, I feel like a lot of us are also like changing the face of what marriage looks like in a lot of ways. So yeah,
it's good talk.
Good talk. Well, there's no
tea.